Twitter, or X as they want to call it, has been blocked in Brazil. It has definitely been blocked in Brazil along with VPNs to access Twitter. I don't want to make this video. All right. Why don't I want to make it? Because I'm already hearing people shouting to the four winds, oh my God, freedom of speech, to print, to say, to do, to kiss, letter, testament. And here it really has very little meaning. Come on, let's try to explain what happened, why it makes little sense, what is happening more or less in the global context at this point, because we are seeing that this is something that is happening in various states, which is moving against the platforms. I try to do everything in the shortest time possible, which is the weekend, but I don't promise you anything. Because I have been talking and we have been talking about these things for years. It's called tech policy, when regulations and technology need to go hand in hand. And that's exactly what we are discussing here on Ciao Internet. Hello Internet. First of all, if you haven't subscribed yet, and you're interested in these things, subscribe to the channel. There will be a lot to talk about in the coming weeks and months, and it's right and worthy that you know this, that you stay informed with me or anyone else. Let's start from the beginning. X is indeed Twitter. X, I can't bring myself to call it Twitter, excuse me. X is the main source of news in Brazil, the leading app in Brazil as a very important source of news, and it has been used extensively for both good and bad purposes in Brazil. It is currently estimated that there are approximately 40 million active users on X in Brazil, estimated to be around. Amid all this, there is a conflict that between not just the platform, the personal one, between Elon Musk and a person. This person's name is Judge Alexandre de Moraes, and he currently holds an extremely high position within the highest court of Brazil, the Federal Court of Brazil. I remind you that Brazil is not a single state. Now, it's lengthy overall, but I'll try to summarize it for you. Of course, something will be missing. The story has been going on for a long time. I believe since Moraes' appointment, who is a complex character, a judge, former politician, etc., who takes on a role as Minister of Justice under the still Temer administration, and then rises as a judge of the Supreme Court, thus acquiring a series of very high and obviously polarizing powers. But basically, what happens? What happens is that during Bolsonaro's elections, when all over the world there was talk of all the misinformation circulating on X, but not only on X at that moment, a whole series of accounts are removed when Elon Musk returns to... That is, he takes control of Twitter, takes control of Twitter, which will then become X, lifts the ban on a number of those users, obviously making available a whole series of content that the Brazilian government had already requested the removal of more than once, as well as the Brazilian judiciary. Musk, then we could say, does not comply with these orders from the judiciary, but it would be absolutely not, no, sufficient. Musk generally responds to these orders with a personal battle against de Moraes, a personal battle conducted in the way a 15-year-old with significant relational issues might, using memes, one after another, and things like that. Do you like my toilet paper? With the judge's name on it, there are some... One day this thing will be yours. This photo will be yours, etc., and a whole series of this kind of memes and responses, which may not be the best way to respond, makes me feel a bit out of place. I'm saying this as someone who is okay. I mean, there is a reason why in each of my companies there is at least one other co-CEO who is not me, because I am not capable. There are realities with which I am unable to interface, and I send people who are more capable of doing so. But at this point, Brazil is asking for removal. When it is not removed, it takes action, like a state does, meaning it takes the legal representative and holds them, obviously, threatening to imprison them, seizing their assets, which is I don't remember the name. She is a very skilled professional, by the way, the former legal head, administrator in Brazil, legal administrator, but I don't remember the name. What is happening? What happens is that, as they have done with many other legal representatives, they hold him responsible and therefore seize his accounts, etc., and obviously threaten to arrest him. Now, why? Because within a country, your legal representative is what constitutes your legal representative and assumes a whole series of risks and obligations within the country in question. What does Musk do? He says, oh no, it's not possible. Let's exit the market. He exits the market, closes the chairs, and so on. However, within that market, X is still active, and Brazilian law requires any platform, not just X, that is active within the territory to appoint a legal representative. But it only did it with, no, Telegram has a legal representative in Brazil, Meta has a legal representative in Brazil, Microsoft has a legal representative in Brazil. All platforms that want to operate within and that are large enough to end up on the radar have a legal representative. When a request from Brazil arrives to appoint a legal representative, or otherwise, be blocked in the territory. Think they hire a legal representative? No, because the legal representative inside already knows that A, will end up in jail, B, all of their assets will be seized, C, if you have to live in a country, you risk a whole series of reprisals, so it's easy to be the super maladjusted man with memes when you're a billionaire on the other side of the world. It's hard to find someone who takes these responsibilities in your place and decides to put their neck on the line in your name and on your behalf. In fact, he doesn't find it. Indeed, he doesn't mention it. What is happening? The only thing that can happen, the only thing that could happen is the blockage, which resonates so much within the global landscape. Because once again, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. What is being done, of course, is an attempt to block it. How? Within 24 hours, it will be removed from the stores and taken offline, likely with the routes to access it also blocked. But there is more. Of course, to avoid this, they are not that foolish. The judges know that VPNs will be used to bypass the block. There are two factors. First, app stores must remove VPN applications along with all the collateral damage and more. There is a penalty for users who have used a VPN. You ask, how do I know who has used a VPN? Some things are a bit more complex while others are easy. If I know that I have some famous users of X who are Brazilian, because they are actors, they are well-known people, they are journalists, etc., and I see that they are using it, I can fine them. About the equivalent of 50,000 reais. I don't remember exactly. It's just under $9,000 a day in fines. Now, We need to talk about it for a second, though, because the thing that drives me, actually, let's do a swap so we can change the subject. The end. One of the things that annoys me the most when hearing about these topics is, having worked in the European Economic Area and beyond for the last 20 years, those who say to you, oh, but the First Amendment. So let's start just from the point of law, okay? The First Amendment does not exist in Brazil. There is this beautiful retweet from the End Wokeness, well, from Elon Musk, who promotes free speech, the foundational basis of democracy, blah, 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 and the note from X that tells you the concept of free speech, the First Amendment, does not exist in Brazilian law. And that, okay, right there. But it reminds me of a series of things. When I was still working for rapid contrast pornography, along with Rainbow Telephone, there was something that drove me and us crazy. There were two things, but one mainly. There was a publication, I believe it was called LS Mag at the time, which was published, and it featured not nudity. Okay, they were not naked children, they were girls, mainly girls, sexualized girls and boys. That is, not naked, but dressed in outfits from the prostitution streets in the suburbs, heavily made up and styled, etc., with sadomasochistic items on them, with, I mean, all that heavy lingerie and heavy makeup on children who are around 6 to 7 years old, okay? Obviously, the sexualization within various states of Eastern Europe was and continues to be a crime, and thus individuals ended up involved in various investigations for possession of child pornography. Okay? Together with Postal Market, but that would be a long story. Eventually, I will sit down to tell it. But what drove you crazy was the but why, who produces them and where. Were they produced within one state? Eastern Europe, I don't remember which one. Where this was not a crime. Yes, because regulations change around the world. And this drove us crazy because what was the game? The local game was that nudity was considered a crime, but sexualization was not. So they could publish these things. But the fact that they could publish them in the state where they were published did not automatically mean that they could take these things and transfer them to any state. In a number of states where these things were prohibited, you could not transfer this, period. Freedom of speech, perhaps, but also not. Within a state, the constraints of freedom are linked to what is primarily allowed or not allowed within the democratic system. There are many examples of this. There are many countries in the world where gambling is completely liberalized, with no regulations at all. But this is not the case in Italy. So, if I open an online casino in Guatemala, I'm saying Guatemala, but not because I know it. It's just a random state which is accessible to Italians via the internet. And maybe I even translate it into Italian and accept funds from Italy. This does not mean that it is automatically a permitted site. In my opinion, it is a gamble in general, so much so that the administration of the states intervenes. Functionally or not, that's another discussion, but it intervenes. The same thing happens here. Also because we are not saying that Musk has decided in the appropriate venues to go and fight for the Brazilian people, and the world are fighting for legality, as many other platforms are doing, with a series of legal battles, one after another, saying, no, I will not remove those things because they are free speech. Let's go to court, and I will take it to the highest level of judgment to say whether it is acceptable or not. I think of Vivian. Well, there are a few around Europe. No. He goes online to post funny memes, not mentioning that he knows very well what would happen to a legal representative there. And on top of that, he goes around saying, look at the evil government of Brazil that has it out for me. Because this is the level. Okay. Basically, these are all maneuvers that will work less and less often because more and more frequently, various realities and economic spaces have systems to make the use within the platform and the territory of the platform legal with a series of obligations. If you want to be part of that economic space, and if you want users within that economic space to be able to use your platform, otherwise, once again, you will face consequences. However, be careful. There are consequences that resonate with your users. One is, I don't know if I have the freedom to say it, so I won't say which application, but there has been an application in a country of, let's say, in a country in Eastern Europe, where at a certain point it becomes illegal for something like this because they haven't removed the content. During a legal battle, it becomes impossible for the platform to operate and individual users are fined or face the threat of imprisonment. It is the platform that shuts down. Why? But it doesn't shut down because it is afraid of the government. The platform tends to protect its users and does not want those users who were on a dating platform to become, due to the platform, and precisely because of the very fact of being there, possible targets for civil and criminal actions that are obviously meant to intimidate the platform's managers and to incite public opinion against them. But they are against the people, and therefore they decide to remove themselves from that economic space. The basic idea is that there can be a problem of freedom of speech, etc. Of course, there can be. Maybe there is even one. I don't know enough, considering what I had seen regarding Bolsonaro. I tend to exclude it, but I could very well be wrong, so can there be a problem? Absolutely. Yes. How is the problem solved? By making memony about the judge. Probably not. Growing up every once in a while, it could be a useful thing. Understanding that you are at the head of an important conglomerate and making decisions to move that platform forward, which could mean a nice legal battle, done well, perhaps in person and not sending a puppet to the slaughter for a few bucks. Okay. But that is another discussion, and it is my opinion. There is one last, extremely important part to understand. And the last part to understand is that the consequences of the platform have repercussions for the entire market, not just for your platform. Right now, your reluctance has led to the blocking of VPNs, which are not only used for that purpose, but are also used for many other things. Your inspiration, your raising your head, etc., if it is not, then substantiated by a legal battle for legality, moving in a certain direction, does not help the freedom of any platform. In fact, it puts even more scrutiny on all the other platforms, obviously, with the global consequences that we are witnessing. So, the basic AI is that no one is asking you to operate all over the world. No one. If you decide to do so, you must adhere to a whole set of regulations. Okay, if you decide not to adhere to those norms, I am happy about it. If you choose to disobey unjust norms, which is one of the fantastic things when you have the opportunity and the means to take a stand, unlike other citizens who may not be able to fight against me, you have the chance to take the lead and say, for an unjust cause, I will move against the system. Many entities have done this. Apple did it in the United States against the FBI. Facebook did it in various parts of Europe and the world, and many are still doing it. Go, take it, and do it, but not by complaining and saying the world is ugly and bad. Okay, by stating what are the obvious points necessary to be on the side of reason, such as appointing a responsible person, being in order with the accounts, and so on, and from there, saying, now I arrive, and I will make you sit down in stripes, in terms of law. Otherwise, what you are doing is just noise. And in the noise, gunshots are less audible in the general noise, and many things are less noticeable in the noise. Every time you just make noise, you simply know, as Matteo says, you are just playing the game of those who are putting you in the midst of the noise. Or at least, that's what I think. That was the last thing I wanted to tell you. Let me know what you think down below, and don't write nonsense because I'll just delete it. Okay. Turn on your brain before formulating a response. As for the rest, see you next time, next week. Well, if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. You'll find the links at the bottom. All right, thank you so much for listening to me, and I'm typing this for you.